Well, it looks like Jayden Quaintance will not be visiting Kentucky. However, I believe that there is a better center out there that will be visiting Mark Pope and the Wildcats.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, going to be discussing Jayden Quaintance. He is not visiting Kentucky basketball today. However, Great Osobor from Utah State will going to talk about his recruitment and what he could mean for the Kentucky Wildcats and their roster this upcoming season. Speaking of that roster, they need portal players, and boy howdy is Mark Pope going after them in the transfer portal right now. Going to talk about 3 new names we need to discuss, as well as a potential assistant that could be added to Mark Pope's staff that could be a very good recruiter. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed to the show, and if you are listening on podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Kentucky basketball currently going after Great Osobor, a center that they could very much so use, not just at the 5, but also at the power forward spot this upcoming season. Out of Utah State, Jayden Quaintance, a 5-star center that was originally committed to the Kentucky Wildcats before Coach Cal bolted for Arkansas. Quaintance will not be going on his visit with Mark Pope today. It was confirmed by KSR. But, however, Great Osobor has scheduled a visit. You go and look per Jeff Goodman. April 29th through May 1st is when Osobor is scheduled to visit, which is really awesome. However, the downside to this is that Osobor will also be taking visits with 3 other programs. Louisville, May 1st through May 3rd. Texas Tech, May 4th through May 6th. And then Washington, May 7th through May 9th. Looks like this thing with Great Osobor is going to draw out just a little bit longer than we anticipated. And to be honest with you, I'm okay if this is the way that things play out. I really like Jayden Quaintance. I think he's a very talented player. Obviously, extremely high upside. Has to play for 2 years in college before he can go into the NBA draft because of how young he is. Could be a valuable asset on even an SEC team this upcoming season. However, reports indicating he will not be going to Arkansas either, so I'm curious to see where Quaintance will end up. Could be Memphis at the end of the day. I think Quaintance would be very good. I think that missing out on him does stink, but at the same time, I really do like what Kentucky is doing in the transfer portal to get players that fit what Pope is going to do this upcoming season, which is run around, shoot threes, play up tempo, and really utilize bigs heavily in the passing game. And I think Great Osobor, when you look at what he did during his time at Utah State, he definitely does fit that bill alongside Drexel commitment Amari Williams, who transferred into Kentucky over this past weekend. Both of those guys, I think, could really do well and thrive in a system like Mark Pope's this fall. And I think that Osobor, when you look at him at 6'8", got very long arms, aggressive around the rim. He's got a solid block rate, can rebound on both sides offensively and defensively, protects the rim well. But the big thing about Osobor that I really like is his ability to handle the ball and pass the ball as well. 17.7 points per game a season ago. I think Osobor right now, even we can back this all the way up actually. Way before Coach Cal even was announcing, hey, I'm going to Arkansas, before he was even rumored, I said on this show, Great Osobor from Utah State, Mountain West Player of the Year. He is my guy. I want him on Kentucky's roster next season. Kentucky had not even reached out to him at that point, I might add. So here we are with Osobor now getting a visit on the 29th. I would love to have this kid alongside Amari Williams. Would they split time at the 5? Would Osobor play the 4? I'm not quite sure how Kentucky would want to handle that. How many shooters do you want on the floor at the time? Maybe At that point, you just kind of split time with Osobor and Williams, and maybe Kentucky can create some sort of NIL package that would be lucrative for Great to come here and, quite frankly, I believe, be great. So while Quaintance, I think, is definitely a loss for Kentucky, to miss out on him if he's not going to take the visit, I think that somebody like Osobor will end up being, if he does come to UK, a more valuable pick for Kentucky this upcoming season. He played in a very rugged conference. He has experience previously at Montana State, by the way, and he does all the things you want your power forward center to do. If he was just a couple of inches taller, this kid, I believe, would be considered an NBA draft pick. He's not a three-point shooter. I mean, statistically, he's not shooting poorly from outside the arc, but he just doesn't take threes. How much does that factor into maybe how Mark Pope wants to approach this over maybe some other players in the portal? I'm not quite sure, but at the end of the day, and we're gonna get into this seriously here in just a second about Kentucky's roster construction. Kentucky may not really have a whole lot of choice in what they do with their backup 4 or 5 or their starting 4 or 5. They may just kind of have to take what's on the table, and to be honest with you, to get the 5th best player in the transfer portal, potentially in the player of the year in his conference, a respectable conference, good statistics, really, really fun film. I would encourage you to go watch Utah State highlights. They are a fun team. This would be incredible. Just full stop. I think it would be incredible. So Quaintance, I really do hope Kentucky really puts their foot on the gas there and tries until it's official that he commits elsewhere. But Osobor has been my number one target for about 3 weeks now. So you can leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about Great Osobor and about his visit to Kentucky coming up on the 29th? I'm very excited about it. And I'm very excited about a couple of other transfer portal players I want to talk about today as well. 3 different players, one from Minnesota, one from Duke, and one from Utah. 2 of these kids really, really good at point, and another one, a former 5-star prospect that I think could fit well with the Wildcats. Before we dive into those 3 players and their statistics and my analysis, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. I have loved using Game Time. They are super fast, quick, and easy to utilize. They've got all-in prices, views from your seat, and then their best price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference of your ticket if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less elsewhere. Utilized them a ton last season during not just MLB season, but also college football season, traveling to different places. It was super, super awesome. I would strongly encourage you to go to Game Time. There is no better place to go get your tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets by downloading the Game Time app today and creating an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose, you can bet on every single thing, from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. It's all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. That is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, continuing along here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Again, I really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, wherever you are tuned in, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. I want to thank you guys again so much for getting me to 10,000 subscribers. I'm so excited about it. I'm really thrilled to get to share this offseason with you guys, kind of talk about what's happening with Kentucky. It's a new day, 10K. I'm excited to kind of dive in this into this new journey with Mark Pope as well. Very excited. I've got a comment here from Brandon Gavin EDC, and it's the comment of the day here today. If you've got a comment you would like to leave about how you feel about the transfer portal, about Mark Pope, about anything going on with Kentucky basketball, you can do so in the YouTube comments below. But Brandon Gavin _ EDC, he said, now we need some guards and wings. Suiting the Great Osobor smoke checks out. Plus, we've got Oklahoma State's McDonald's All-American potentially coming too. And that McDonald's All-American, Brandon Garrison, is somebody we've already talked about on the show. Appreciate the comment. And I agree. Kentucky needs some guards and some wings. So let's talk about some guards and some wings. Let's start here with Elijah Hawkins out of Minnesota, a player that Kentucky has contacted and was one of the best assist men in the country just a season ago. This kid knows how to pass the rock around, and boy, howdy, was he fun at Minnesota. Take a look at his overall base stats. He was at Howard for 2 seasons before transferring to Minnesota, averaged 9.5 points, 7.5 assists, 3.6 rebounds per game, 1.6 steals, while shooting 39% from the floor and 36.5% from three. The 3-point percentage I'm more excited about than the 2-point percentage, but I really do think the ability to spread the ball around and to be that in control of the offense is very, very impressive. I think the big thing here is about the assist. 7.5 assists per game, and then the assist rate. 38.9% assist rate is the second highest assist rate I have seen doing transfer portal breakdowns. We'll talk about the guy that's first actually in just a minute. But Elijah Hawkins at 5'11", 170 had the 9th best assist rate in the country just a season ago. Formidable 3-point shooter as well. Would love for this kid to try and focus more on the outside shot than trying to get inside. Let's break down more some of his statistics at different spots, and I'll talk about what I've seen about his game. 45% field goal shooting at the rim. That's not great, but not terrible. That's 27% of his field goal attempts. Thank goodness it's only 27% because that's not particularly efficient for a guard. However, here's the positive news. He shoots 43% on left break threes. So left break threes are any threes above the break on the left side, so essentially the left wing. That's 26% of his field goal attempts. So he shoots as much as he does from the left wing as he does at the rim. That's a Mark Pope point guard right there if I've ever seen one. He shoots 34% on right break threes, which is above average, slightly above average, but it's not like he's shooting poorly from beyond the arc. I'd like to see him shoot more from three, just point blank. I'd like to see him get a little bit more involved there because he can knock it down. He's got a very solid outside shot. I'm not a huge fan of what he does in the mid-range. He doesn't spot up a ton. He's not particularly an efficient scorer in transition, or at least an impactful scorer in transition, I should say, or in isolation. The kid does get his points. He averages almost 10 a game, but it really is more focused on distributing the ball and getting it to other players. And I liked Minnesota's offense from a season ago. It wasn't phenomenal, but it wasn't terrible. It was top 60 in the country. They played slower, so I'd be curious how he translates over to a more up-tempo system with Mark Pope. But I do like this guy. I think Amari Williams would love this man, because coming off of ball screens, I said that he's not necessarily an impactful scorer on spot-ups, transition, ISO, ball screen. If he's getting a ball screen, he is taking it to the rim, putting pressure on the defense, and looking to make the pass. And normally, the recipient of that pass was Minnesota's big man. They're 4 or they're 5, and he'd throw it down. He can throw lobs. He can throw really nifty wraparound passes. This kid really does just, for lack of a better term, put some stank on it. Put some stank on it, I should say. So I like Elijah Hawkins. He's not an incredible scorer. He's not a prolific scorer, but I don't necessarily know if Kentucky needs a prolific scorer at the point guard spot next season, especially if they're going to have so many different wings and then potentially 2 big men that can fill it up as well. So I like Hawkins, and I like him pairing with somebody like Williams in kind of like a pick and roll type of game where you can throw lobs, you can get to the rim, you can do all sorts of things with kickouts. Hawkins may be our guy. Deivon Smith may be our guy as well from Oklahoma State. That's somebody that we need to continue to keep an eye on. Here is a wing that when I break down his numbers, when I start talking about his numbers, I should say, you're not going to be really fired up. But when I start to break them down, it's going to make a lot more sense what we're dealing with here. TJ Power from Duke. Yes, that is his real name. The man is named TJ Power at 6'9". That is awesome. I would want no other life than to have the last name Power and be almost 6'10". That is incredible. He is a 3-and-D type of player. This man could not shoot inside the arc at Duke, but to be fair, he didn't really get a lot of playing time. So let's go over the base statistics and talk about really what were the potential is here. He averaged 2.1 points, less than a rebound, 0.2 assists, 0.2 steals, 0.2 blocks, and only 7 minutes per game. He played in 26 games. So the kid came off the bench and was hardly a part of the rotation. He shot 33% from the floor, and you may say, how on earth did 6'9" TJ Power shoot just 33%? Well, it's because he wasn't taking a ton of shots, but believe it or not, he was a serviceable three-point shooter. He shot almost 36% from deep, which is good for a 6'9" forward. In fact, I would say that's actually really solid for a 6'9" forward to be able to shoot that consistently. When he was in the game, he was putting up threes. He was 2 of 9 from inside the arc, and that's what lowered his shooting percentage. I'm sure Kentucky and Pope could get him some better looks because, you go and look at it. It was some occasional garbage time putting up some floaters that were ill-advised. I think Kentucky can change that a little bit about him. He shot 20% on left break threes. That was 22% of his field goal attempts. That is just straight up awful. He shot 40% on left corner threes, 44% on right wing threes, and 56% on right corner threes. So anything not in the left corner or inside the arc, this dude was actually really, really solid in. And you may say, okay, well, why didn't he get a ton of playing time? Why were there different things that are wrong with his statistics? Why is he entering the transfer portal and leaving Duke? He was a 5-star prospect last year. He was top 20 in the country according to 24/7 Sports, number 17 according to them, number 20 according to the composite ratings. He was number 6 in the country at the power forward spot. He was the number 1 player coming out of Massachusetts, 6'9", 215. Iowa, North Carolina, Notre Dame, and Virginia were other teams involved with his recruitment. And this is what Director of Scouting Adam Finkelstein had to say about him. Power came up the ranks as a two-sport star who doubled as a left-handed pitcher on the baseball diamond. Of course, he played basketball as a righty, illustrating how he was literally ambidextrous. While he's been a high major prospect for years now, his recruitment blew up this summer in correlation to the gains he has made as a three-point shooter within the last year, as he is now stretching the floor with accurate consistency. That shot-making ability complements other well-rounded ball skills, as he can take the ball off glass and start the break himself, is also a heady passer. Sounds like somebody that would work well with Mark Pope. Power is a well-rounded athlete with mobility and agility at his size that makes him fluid on both ends of the floor. He's a fifth-year senior and an older graduate at that, which has to be a consideration when projecting him out long-term. Yes, please. I would like to see TJ Power in the rotation potentially next season because he could be here for several years and pan out to be something really, really solid in the future. He was only used on 15.5% of possessions whenever he was in the game last season. He had the lowest percentage of minutes of anybody in Duke's rotation a season ago. And get this, he played exclusively, according to KenPom, exclusively small forward. At 6'9", 216, the man played the 3 exclusively. Again, as somebody who can play off ball, I would like to see TJ Power. I'd like to see him as somebody that can kind of be in a catch and shoot type of role. And if he can develop into a really good three-point shooter, he would be an extremely valuable asset at the 3 with that length in coming season. So I say yes to TJ Power, and I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you like TJ Power? Do you not? I think he should be one of the guys that Kentucky is recruiting heavily for this upcoming season. Would probably be a bench player this year, maybe a starter even next season. I think there's a lot of potential here as a former 5-star prospect. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments below. All right, I want to talk here a little bit about Kentucky's roster, about one more point guard, and then a potential addition to Kentucky basketball's staff from Baylor. If Kentucky can't get the head man, they might as well get their best recruiter. Before we dive into that, though, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at Monopoly Go. I have a pretty competitive side, and we all do, honestly. My competitive side, however, is a huge fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can now charge them rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but I can also now heist them of their vaults to get their riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. I've been playing this game with some of my friends for a few months now. One of them got me hooked on it. We have since spread the word to some of our other friends, and it's been super, super fun. It's not just my competitive side that loves it. However, you can also team up with friends and people around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go today, now free on the App Store or on Google Play. All right, wrapping up the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have not subscribed to the show today, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so wherever you are tuned in. Thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. We here at Locked On Kentucky are super thrilled with the direction of the show, and I want you guys to let me know what you think about the direction of Kentucky in the comments below. At Locked On UK on Twitter is also where you can find me. Let me know what you think about this transfer portal, I guess madness, you should say, with Kentucky basketball. Let's talk about one more player here. One more player that I think would also be a pretty solid addition at the point guard spot. Deivon Smith, or Deivon Smith, I should say, out of Utah. Smith is an interesting prospect. I mentioned earlier that I had never seen an assist rate as high as Elijah Hawkins, but then you get to look at Smith. Last year, 13.3 points per game at Utah, 7.1 assists, 6.3 rebounds per game, 1 steal, while shooting 46.7% from the floor and 41% from three. 6'1", 170 pounds. This kid has some major hops. I like the elevation on this kid. He can definitely go up and throw it down at 6'1". But what I like even more about him are some of his shooting splits to go along with that insane assist rate. 63% at the rim, that's 47% of his field goal attempts. He shot 33% on left break threes. He shot 27% on right break threes, which was not phenomenal, but he was way more efficient in the corner, which kind of helped him boost his percentage up past 40%. He's a good three-point shooter, a formidable three-point shooter with a 42% assist rate. Take a look at Kim Pom. That is third in the country. He did not take a ton of threes a season ago, just took 71 outside shots, which was good for fifth, on Utah's team last year, but he was the second most utilized player. The kid can throw the ball around and get it to other players at a wild rate. I really like Smith. I like his athleticism. I like his aggressiveness. Somebody else that would, again, work really well with a guy like Amari Williams. I like his ability to take it to the hole and finish, I think, a little bit more consistently than you see Elijah Hawkins doing. Either of these guys, I think, would be excellent. I like Smith, though, because of his higher percentage at the rim, his higher percentage from beyond the arc, and then he's just as good as passing the rock around. Deivon Smith out of Utah, somebody that Kentucky has contacted. We'll see what happens there with the point guard from the Utes. You look at Kentucky's roster right now, Amari Williams, Travis Perry, Cullen Chandler. Those are the three guys. I would expect Richie Saunders, who has taken a visit from BYU to Kentucky, I would expect him to commit sometime soon within the next week or so, whether it's to Kentucky, whether it's elsewhere. I believe it'll be UK. Crystal Ball say that. I have some confidence in that. Jackson Robinson, who is currently in the NBA draft, I think that if he does come back to college, Kentucky's going to have a great chance to land him. So if you look at this roster building up, and then you've got Great Osobor on a visit as well. If you look at this roster building up, you could have Perry, Cullen Chandler, Richie Saunders, Jackson Robinson, Great Osobor, Amari Williams. You're starting to round out players at every single position. Now you need to start to build some depth and bring in a couple more starters. Either Smith or Hawkins, I think, would be great as starters. I think that TJ Power would be somebody that Kentucky needs to take seriously as a potential candidate, as somebody that could be a backup 4. I love what TJ Power's potential could be. He's got a high ceiling, I think, as a three-point shooter. And then there are various other players like Javon Small, like Janelle Davis, who Kentucky is in contention for. So many different really high-profile guards and wings that Kentucky could add on to Osobor and Williams. I'm super excited about all of them. Very excited about the direction of this roster. And if you add a really good recruiter, it could get even better, and that's what Alvin Brooks III does extremely well. In case you don't know who Alvin Brooks III is, he is an assistant coach at Baylor underneath Scott Drew. He's been there since 2016. Before that, he was an assistant at Kansas State from 12 to 16, and he is one of their best recruiters, and he has been rumored, according to various sources, 24/7 Sports, Matt Norlander of CBS Sports, KSR, people are reporting that Kentucky may very well be locking him down as the next addition to this coaching staff. Once it's done, by the way, we're going to take a look at the coaching staff because I'm starting to get really excited about it. And if you can get somebody like Brooks on your side, you're going to get a very good recruiter. Just to throw this out here for you guys, let's take a look at Alvin Brooks, his 4 of his 5 commitments that he has gotten at Baylor since he has started recruiting for them in 2021. Let's start at the bottom here. 4-star point guard, shooting guard Langston Love. He was also listed as a 5-star in a couple of different ratings systems. Langston Love is the lowest rated recruit that he's got. 6'4", 190 in 2020. Jacoby Walter, 5-star shooting guard at 6'5" in 2022. Keontae George, 5-star shooting guard in 2021 at 6'4". And then VJ Edgecombe, shooting guard, 5-star in this year's class. 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. 5-star on a couple of different sites, but 4-star. Very high-rated 4-star. And then Noah Boyett, who also committed in 2023, a 7-foot, 230-pound power forward who is not ranked at all, but I think he was coming out of junior college, so that makes sense why he's not ranked on any boards. But that's 4 5 stars, essentially. We'll call it 4 or 5 stars here. 4 very good players, I might add, and one that is in this year's class. If Kentucky gets Alvin Brooks, could VJ Edgecombe be on the table? I would be very excited about getting to talk about that with you on this show, about the possibility of Alvin Brooks, a very good recruiter, somebody that can recruit for the University of Kentucky at a high level, and then the potential of VJ Edgecombe. We'll continue to talk about it. We'll continue to monitor it here on Locked On Kentucky. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.